In this section, I'm going to teach you how to install Windows Server 2019 and VMware Workstation 16. Okay, before we start the install, we're going to make sure, one, you have your ISO ready to go with your Windows Server 2019, and we're going to have to change the network on our Workstation 16. We're going to go over here to Edit, and we're going to click on Virtual Network Editor. And inside there, you're going to look for the NAT. Okay, and we're going to make sure your NAT looks identical to mine. So click Subnet IP at the bottom there and type in 192.168.15.0. And then for the subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. More than likely that will be left default. Alright, then we're going to go up here to where it says NAT. Make sure that has a little check next to it and click NAT settings. Inside there, we're going to look at the gateway IP, and that will be changed to a 192.168.15.1. Everything else here will be left alone. DNS settings should be auto detect available DNS servers. Hit OK. Hit OK again. And now we're going to go here, make sure it is checked for connect a host virtual adapter to this network. And then use a local DHCP service to distribute an IP. And then we're going to click on DHCP settings, and inside there the last ending of the starting IP address will be 100, and then the ending IP address will be 200. Hit OK. Now just verify one more time that your NAT looks identical to my NAT at 192.168.15.0, because once we move forward from here, all the IP addresses we will use with this server will be addressed under this subnet IP address. Okay, so now go ahead and click OK at the bottom. Right, now it's time to do the install. So we're going to click on Create a New Virtual Machine. We're going to go ahead and click on Typical. I will install the operating system later. We're going to click Microsoft Windows, and for the version, we're going to click 2016 because it does not have 2019. We're going to change it from 2016 to 2019 and then click Next. We're going to leave the disk size at default, and then we're going to split virtual disks into multiple files. Leave that as a default. Click Next. Okay, now we're just going to have to go and click Customize Hardware. We're going to have to do a couple of things in here. First is the memory. Change that from 2 to 4. Processors, we'll keep that as number of processors as 2 and cores at 1. Okay, now we have to add the ISO. So in my case here, you're going to click on New CD DVD, click Use ISO Image, Browse, and then you want to click on the SW-DVD9 Win Server STD Core 2019. Network adapter, make sure it's checked off for NAT, because that's the 192.168.15.0 that we chose. And then everything else can be left as default. Go down here and click Close. Click Finish. Okay. So in this case, on description, I want everybody to follow along here. For administrator, the password I'm going to use is password 123 ! with a capital P. I do not recommend anybody to use this in a real environment, but for our case being here, because I'm going to make this and then we're going to eventually destroy it or whatever I end up being, that's the password we use for the entire being. You can also pick any password you want. You know, in that case, everything else you should follow to a T, but for that one you can pick any password you want as long as you remember it. Okay, press any key. And then what we're going to do is we're going to click Enter the full mode up top here. I want the full screen action. Alright, and then as you can see, this is going to be a standard Windows, server. So if you ever installed 2012, 2016, possibly 2008, I don't remember what that looks like anymore, but if you did a 2008 R2, it might look very similar to this. I don't think it did though. It might though. If you ever installed any version of Windows. So we're going to click Windows Server 2019 Standard Desktop Experience. Click Next. accept the license terms, click on Custom Install Windows Only, then we're going to click on New, Apply, let it give us all our partitions, and then click Next. And now we're at the waiting game. Normally in most of my videos I do a full install from start to finish, but in this case I'm probably going to skip a little further ahead, only because this is a very simple install. If it fails doing the install at all, until it gets to the login screen, my recommendation would be reinstalling the USB drive or the CD you created. Just create a whole nother ISO, and then trying again. So I'll go ahead and see you in a few seconds. Okay, so everything all went successfully. If you're seeing the same screen I do, okay, it means the install went well. If you're not at this point in the video, or your install failed, again, I would recommend just doing a reinstallation of the USB drive or the ISO, re-download the ISO or something of that nature. There's probably corruption with the ISO that you have. Okay, but to keep moving forward here, we're going to click on password. Now remember before, the password that we decided to use, or I decided to use, password 123 exclamation point. So I'm going to go ahead and type that in right here. It's like people think it's such a secret. Nobody's going to use this. If you want to hack my virtual machine, have at it. So here it says press Control Alt Delete. Well, if you've ever used a virtual machine, that is not what you want to do. You're going to want to press Control Alt and Insert. And look at this. Log in with our super secure password. Okay, so in this case here, click yes right there. Close out of everything. And now we're going to install VMware Tools. So go up to VM, install VMware Tools. And then install. So we're almost done. Only another couple more minutes just to get this thing going. As you can see here, I'm having some network issues, and with virtual machines, or actually I noticed with Windows Server 2012 and 2016 and 2019, even if you have a good network connection, it still reads no internet access until you set up DHCP server and actually do a full install. But I've had some times where it worked just fine too out of the box. So it's a hit or a miss, but I will tell you 100% that this will be working just fine after everything's installed with the network drivers and the VMware tools. Even if it shows me a little goofy triangle. Oh, it doesn't work. It does work. One more reboot. And to go ahead and show you guys another little trick here, Control Alt Delete again, go up to VM, and you can just actually click Send Control Alt Delete if you do not want to type in Control Alt Insert, which would be no different pressing Control Alt Delete, but some people are the way they are. So we'll go ahead and give us a couple seconds here. Configure your local. So this is pretty much everything we have to do to install Windows Server 2019. I will be doing another video which is just installing the core, because later on in this course you will be doing a few core installs. I do plan on doing an AD install for a regular desktop and a core. I do feel that in some situations you really don't need a graphic desktop interface for Active Directory anymore, especially the way remote desktoping has worked, and the way the Windows Admin Center now comes out where you can manage everything. I think it's a much better tool to utilize. And then again, more resources. So if you're building a lot of virtuals, it's better to have them as cores than to have them actually as full desktop experiences. This right here is going to use a lot more memory than the core would, because it doesn't have to show me any of this information I don't need to see at the time. All right, but that will go ahead and end this section of our video. So the next one's going to explain to you how to configure the local server and a few more getting started techniques to kind of get the server up and running to the point where you're going to start installing all your roles and features.